Hey everybody, Dr. Jensen with CCJ3701 Research Methods in Criminology. Today is one of the last skills that you're going to learn in these lectures for this week, how to build scales and summations. So this is the fun stuff where we get to shove variables together and make big giant variables. So it's kind of cool. One of the last skills you'll learn, after this it's all statistics. Okay, we're just learning how to take the stuff we're making in SPSS and analyze it to answer really cool questions. So like some of the heavy lifting stuff is going on right now. You've done recoding in lots of ways. You've done recoding with conditions. Now you're building scales and summations. So this is kind of the heavy part of the semester. But once you have all these skills as tools in your tool belt, you'll be fully equipped to work on your data for your topic, your variables, any recoding or any messing with it you need to do to prepare it prior to analyzing it so that you can write it up and answer your research question. So this is kind of training you to get ready to do this on your own. And what's cool is I give you the last few weeks of the semester basically lab free, assignment free. You don't have a whole lot you're working on because you need time. You need time to work on your variables in your paper and to build all your stuff. So I basically start leaving you alone because I'm not doing you justice by giving you stuff to do when you already have a lot to do, okay? So I'll get to see parts of your paper turned in along the way, so you get to kind of submit drafts and get some feedback so you can make improvements. I'll see the final thing come in at the end of the semester, and that's when we know if you've been fully trained in data and statistics. But hopefully this has been kind of creative, hands-on, and kind of fun along the way. So how do we build scales and summations? Well, what the heck are they? What is a scale? A scale is basically a variable that combines variables or topics or concepts together into one big mega variable. It boosts your measurement power using multiple elements, so it kind of gives you higher accuracy. For example, what if we wanted a scale to represent drug usage, but we didn't want to limit ourselves to just studying cocaine or just studying heroin? We want to include as many drugs as possible, but they're all in different fields, different survey questions. It's sort of like combining ingredients together to make a cake, to make one big thing, okay? So I actually had a student that wanted to study self-esteem with kids on probation. They worked in a probation office and they said, you know, I want to see if therapy and intervention is helping these kids. So I want to measure their self-esteem at the beginning, during intake, when they first get on probation, and then study it again at the end of probation once they complete to see if we see a change. I said, yeah, that'd be a great thing to do. She said, well, one problem, I don't have a self-esteem variable. And I said, you could make one. What do you got to work with? And she said, well, you know, we gave our kids this intake survey that asked them some questions that maybe get close to it. One asked, do you like yourself? Another one asked, do you feel other people like you? Another one said, do you have lots of friends? Another one asked, are you happy regularly? Another one said, do you like how people see you? Do you like how you see yourself? Is there anything you drastically want to change about yourself? You know, stuff like that. So they had like 8 or 9 questions in that direction. I said, those are great questions. It's not perfectly measuring self-esteem, but it's getting pretty darn close at what self-esteem is all about. Okay? So she said, well, any one of those questions really wouldn't cut it. And I said, you're right. We have to use all of the questions together to get at this multi-dimensional concept called self-esteem, because all of them would be kind of unidimensional and only measure one little element of it. We want to measure all the different ways that it can vary. So that's really what we're getting at with the scale. Okay, we're going to practice this together too, by the way, in SPSS, so you get good at it. So we want to build a scale on drug usage. That's our concept. But we want to use lots of different drugs and shove them all together into our mega variable. So these are actually questions from Ad Health. So they ask them, have they ever used these drugs, or did they take these drugs without or beyond a prescription? So they asked cocaine, marijuana, steroids, crystal meth, sedatives, tranquilizers, stimulants, painkillers, another prescription drug, or other illegal drugs not mentioned like mushrooms, spice, heroin, etc. So these would be perfect. Okay, so this gets after what we want. So we find our variables. We're going to make this in just a minute. But first we need the steps. How do I actually do this thing called building a scale? This is it. First, identify the concept you want to measure. This goes back to conceptualization. What do I mean by drug usage? Am I going to only look at illicit street drugs? Or am I also going to look at prescription medication abuse? Or am I going to look at both? What about drugs that are illegal underage? So you have to decide and define where the boundary lines are. what it includes, what it excludes. Conceptualization. Number 2, identify the variables that would contribute to your concept. That's operationalization. How do you perform an operation or measure, bring to life this concept? So we got to go find some variables that show us what we want. Oh, I see I have a cocaine variable. I have a marijuana one. I have one on sedatives. This is perfect. Okay. Number 3, review the measurement level and values of each variable. So this goes like the steps for recoding. You get to know what you're going to mess with or analyze. So run frequencies, check value labels and variable labels, refer to code books, or talk to a database analyst or a DBA for feedback to make sure you know exactly what's in there and how it works. Number 4, design how the scale will work. You have a lot of creativity here. What will high scores mean and low scores mean? Be sure the items all contribute to your scale properly, that they're all going in a certain direction, or that they all give meaningful information that can be summed together. Number 5, perform any necessary recoding in SPSS prior to building the scale. You may have variables that are measured in different ways. Some of them are nominal, some are ordinal, some are interval. And you got to get them to all play nicely together in order for them to sum properly. So you may have to do some recodes before you get your final variable. Number 6, build your scale using the compute command in SPSS. That's located in the transform menu, and I'll show you where it lives. Number 7, check your scale to see if the items were combined correctly by running a frequency. And then, of course, you would label it and start using it, and you're done. That's it. So let's actually do this together. Okay? So here, I'm in Add Health. You may want to go ahead and pause the video, open up SPSS using apps.ufl.edu or launching your program and opening up the Add Health dataset on the R drive inside the Courses folder, CCJ3701, and then Data, launching Add Health. Pause the video and get set up. Resume when ready. All right. So I actually am on the row exactly of where we need to begin. So an easy way to find variables on drugs is just searching keywords like marijuana, cocaine, and you'll find them in the data set, okay? But just to save a little time, I brought us to exactly to where we need to be. Okay, so these 10 questions are what we're going to work with. This is row 6043. So scroll to this row and you'll see a variable name called H4TO63. And then we're going to use the next 9 rows after that. We're going to end on H4TO65E. Go ahead and highlight those variables just like I did in SPSS, and I'll show you a cool trick. So once you have them highlighted, right-click and hit Descriptive Statistics. Ta-da! You just ran a frequency on 10 variables all at the same time. They're all next to each other. We can highlight them all, run frequencies on all of them. So this first part just tells you what all the 10 variables were. Okay? They're actually nominal variables, just zeros and ones, meaning yes and no. I'm either in the yes, I used cocaine category or no, I didn't use cocaine category. So all of these variables are nominal. They're perfect for a scale. Did you know when you build a scale, you're actually changing variables from nominal and ordinal into interval variables? So you're taking things that are categories and actually turning it into some quantity? Yep, that's exactly what you're doing. Here's the frequencies on all the variables. Steroids, stimulants, and so on and so forth. They're all organized the same way, yes and no. They're all nominal variables, categories of answers. Perfect. So we're just reviewing these to get to know what we have. We verified that, now we're ready to build our scale. Because they're all labeled as 1, 0, yes, no, we don't need to do any recoding. They're all going to go together perfectly. But we need to make a plan. Just like you do when you recode variables in the SPSS, you have kind of your notes of the variables you're going to use and what you're going to change to them. You're going to do the exact same thing with a scale. So we're going to make our drug usage scale, and we're going to use 1s and 0s, yes and no, leave them as is, and we're going to add them all together. So these are, just my little abbreviations for all the drugs, adding all 10 drugs together, equaling a drug usage scale, okay? Each of those items can have a 1 or 0 answer. So if I literally add the yeses and nos together, the 1s and the 0s, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, or 0 plus 0 plus 0, or 0 and 1 and 0, and any combination of those 0s and 1s, I'll have the 10 items. The very highest score I could get by summing all of those 1 or 0s would be a 10 out of 10. I used all 10 drugs. Yep. Okay, all four of them. If I get a 0, I got a low score. Okay, the very lowest I could get is a 0. I use none of the drugs. No. Okay, any score in between, yes, no, yes, no. Okay, would be I've used one or some of the drugs, some combination of those drugs. Okay, that's it. So now I have my scale designed. It's going to go from 0 to 10, of course, with numbers in between. And I know what direction it's going to go. It's going to go kind of in a positive direction. Realize that with scales, it requires a lot of your data. This and this and this and this and this. Okay? So the person or the entity providing the data, they had to have answered all 10 questions. If they answered only 8 of the questions, they're not going to get included in your scale. Okay? So it's very demanding of your data. Only the people who answered all 10 questions are going to be scaled or included. That's kind of one of the weaknesses of scales. One of the strengths is you get high accuracy. If you answered all 10 questions, I know exactly how many drugs you did. Exactly. Okay, I don't have to worry about that. So very high accuracy, but low sample size because it requires so many people to answer so many questions. It's going to shrink down the group that actually answered all 10. So you don't have as many cases to analyze. Okay, but you will have a very accurate variable. Now, this may or may not be the right thing to do to the data. I would recommend for something like a drug usage scale that we do a summation instead, okay, where we can say this or this or this or this or this to actually contribute to a drug usage scale. I'll show you how to build summations in our next video. But that's our plan. The reason you want to have these plans is not just to keep yourself organized. You have to write about this in your final research report, okay? So you got to tell somebody, this is what I had to work with. This is how I changed it. This is how I put it together. This is what it meant. So that way they know exactly what you did. Full transparency. No guessing games here. So if anyone questions your research or your statistics, you can say, this is how I got there. Replicate it. You'll get the same answer. So this is a defensive technique that we use in research. It's how we defend our science and our study. Yes, everything I did was logical and organized, and there was a plan in place to do this. Okay? So in SPSS, we're actually going to shove all these variables together into a scale. So let's do that. Go to the Transform menu, Compute Variable. Okay? So this is from a compute I did earlier, just playing around with it. I'm going to get rid of these. The first thing you do is you make a target variable. This is the name of your new variable you're going to make. So we're going to call this drug usage scale, something that is familiar to you. Okay? And then you see there's an equal sign right here. Then we put our mouse in the numeric expression box. This is where we're going to build it. Okay? So over here we got to find all those variables. So we're going to put in H4TO. You'll kind of be brought to this TR part of the menu. Scroll down, you can drag your mouse down a little more. You'll see the H4TOs. There's a lot of them. Go all the way to H4TO63. We're almost there, right there. Okay, that's our first variable. It talks about using prescription meds without a prescription. Pop it into the numeric expression box. Click the plus sign on the calculator. Then go to your next variable. It's kind of nice they're all next to each other. Pop it in the box. Hit your plus sign, grab the next variable, pop it in the box, hit your plus sign, next variable, and so on and so forth. Go all the way down the list. Keep hitting that plus sign between variables. If you don't, it's going to screw it up. So we're going to go all the way down to H4TO65E. That's the last one. So when you're done, you should have a numeric expression that looks like this. There's 10 variables in there with plus signs in between every one of them. If you mess up and you forget to put a plus sign, you can always put your cursor in here and delete stuff and then put stuff back in and correct. Okay? So that's how you do it. Notice you have an if condition down here in the corner. Yes, you could actually put a condition on your scale like I only want the female drug users or the male drug users. You could do that. Okay? We're not going to do that today. So we're done. Click OK. So right here at the bottom of our output, yay, you built a scale. Congratulations. Okay, so it just shows us what we did in the syntax. Let's actually go to our data and go all the way to the very bottom, and you'll see the new variable you just made. Right There, okay? There's our drug usage scale.